like I'm doing this really badly. And she'd be like, can I tell you a secret? It doesn't matter if you do it badly. It matters if you do it.
Oh, hey, welcome to Kind. I'm so glad you're here. I'm Holly Newson, and I'll be chatting to guests about the times people were kind to them and how that changed things. This episode, you'll hear how a grandma, an encyclopedia, and perhaps some chocolate cake form a recipe for creativity. By the way, your emotions are valid. Right, let's drop you straight in. My guest today is poet, author, playwright, and creator of things, Nikita Gill. Welcome, and thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so delighted to be here and that you're doing this.
Just a joy. To start with, I wanted to ask, what does kindness mean to you? What does being kind mean to you?
I once wrote a poem that basically said to be compassionate and to be kind is to feel the beating heart of the world under your fingers and not flinch, right? And I think there's something incredibly powerful about people who are able to look at another human being and not see a stranger, but see someone with a full life who deserves hope and kindness and just, help in moments that they're in pain. I think the phrase kindness is so vast and it's such a big umbrella because there's so many ways that you can be kind to people.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you choose to be. And I know people use be kind like a slogan, but I think it's less slogan, more motto. We should all adopt it. We should, because we all need it.
Yeah. I find it's like really multifaceted in that, like you said, there's small things, there's huge things, there's moments of kindness where it's just about the truth, but then it's also about how you deliver that truth and the kindness there. I think there's so many facets. So when guests come on the show, I ask them to have a think about 3 times people have done something kind for them. And this was the first thing Nikita wanted to share.
So I'm not very good at asking for help. I think, call it eldest daughter syndrome, call it like, having to be strong for other people, call it not wanting to seem whatever, like the idea I've internalized of asking for help is weakness, right? I'm not very good at asking for help. It's something I've been working on for many, many years now. And because I'm not good at asking for help, when I go through painful things, I tend to regress into myself and I deal with it. And then I come out, and I think, that's how you do it and you're strong. It took me having a friend who understood when I was grieving and helped just without me having to even ask. So my friend he is one of the coolest people I know. So he's a DJ, he's a producer, he wears many hats. He's also the fire starter of my band with this amazing artist, Nali. And he is one of those people who knows. He's able to look at human beings, know when they are suffering, especially the ones who are close to them, and call. And over the last 4 years, I faced a lot of loss. I've lost a grandparent a year for the last 3 years, which has been really hard. No one tells you how hard it is to watch your parents become the elders of the family when you are used to having other elders. And so grief has been very cyclic in my life. Nirm has always called, always messaged. And it's, when you know someone is grieving, and I know I'm guilty of this, you call once, you ask, if they need help, and, you talk to them about it. And for a lot of people, that's it, right? But grief is an ongoing process. And Nirm is not afraid of my grief or anyone's grief. And I think that's incredibly powerful because he won't just call once. He will consistently check in. He will make sure that he is there. He's available. And he has been available to me in the worst possible moments of my life in the last 5 years. And I think there's something very powerful to be said for someone who can continuously see people in grief and hold them through that grief. And it's not just a question of a true friendship. That is the value system a person has on the inside.
Yeah.
To be able to see someone grieving and just go, I'm not afraid of your grief. I'm not afraid of your pain. He's taught me a lot about how to hold people through grief and how to be there for them in more than just the capacity of, are you okay? How can I help?
Yeah.
Because when someone's grieving, they don't really know how to ask for help. But also, when you ask someone, how can I help? You're basically putting it on them to ask you.
Yeah.
And I think the easier thing to do is making a list in your head of like the things the person might need. And, even if you risk getting it wrong, chances are you won't. Taking someone out for a meal or like just going for a coffee, and then letting them lead the conversation. It's small things like that and the consistency of it.
Yeah.
And that's really beautiful.
When did you realize that Nam was a safe space for your grief?
I think it was, so this actually was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, no, 4 years ago, or even 3 years ago, actually, 2022, February. My partner's best friend passed away. And it was enormously hard because he was really young. He passed away a week before his 32nd birthday. And, Lawrence was a big part of my partner's life. He was like a brother to him. And I was in Dubai at the time that we got this news. We knew he was ill, but we got this news when I was in Dubai, and I wasn't there. I literally canceled my trip back home and was going to fly back. But that night, I was all by myself in that hotel room. I was doing the Emirates Festival. And the Emirates Festival people were wonderful. They were so lovely. But I didn't know them. Yeah. I wanted to be with my people, which was my partner and like the friend circle that knew Loz. And Nam called me that night and he stayed on the phone with me. He stayed on the phone with me and he talked me through it. And I was in a bad way. I wasn't admitting it to myself, but I was. And he was there for me and he talked me through it. And I think that is the first time that I've let someone who is a friend see me that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't even good at letting my now fiance see me that way. And it was so revealing to me to be able to just let someone be kind to me in that moment and how much it meant to me. And I was like, I can't believe I've reached my like mid-30s and not allowed someone to see me crumble, because I've always thought that was weakness, whatever weakness, air quotes on that. But there's, Num actually showed me that it's very strong to be able to see someone crumble, or for them to trust you to see them crumble. It's a great privilege.
Yeah.
And it's an honor. And he taught me that.
Yeah. It is really hard to let yourself be vulnerable in that way. You never know before someone shows you whether they can hold that, whether, they have space for that. So for that person to, not only provide you that safety, but also for you to then allow yourself to be helped is so massive. I can relate to a lot of that.
Yeah.
And so when you think about those moments where Num was there and let you be however you needed to be, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I think I cry more openly now in front of people. And I'm not afraid of letting people see me that way.
Yeah.
I cried today. It's in front of a lot of people, in fact, strangers who I didn't know, but who were very, very good people because they were there and they comforted me through that. Kindness is everywhere, really, if we just allow people in and let them be kind to us. I think a lot of us are almost afraid of kindness because we live in a world where we are taught individualism is more important than community. And because we live in a world that puts that across, we expect people to be unkind or indifferent. So when people are kind, it's almost like a surprise.
Yeah.
It's a shock to the system, a system which has been trained to think that people are either going to be unkind or indifferent. And so, yeah, his consistency as this very dear friend, but also as just a person who lives his life being kind to others, has taught me a lot. So, yeah.
Can you tell me a time that someone did something kind for you? It can be big or small, recent, ages ago.
My nephew has been kind to my little boy recently, and that's something I've remembered.
What did he do?
He was looking after him in like a very busy playground.
The other day I was getting the bus and didn't have my card or anything paying, and the bus driver let me on anyway, which I guess is kind.
That's lovely. I feel like that's also pretty rare.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
And do you have a time that you could share where a stranger has done something kind for you?
Oh my God. So this story, I hold this story close because this happened over the last few years. Not to complain about technology and sound like a massive auntie, but I got this phone about 2-3 years ago now. And this must have happened about 2 years ago. It was post the pandemic. And I remember I was in London and I just about come to like the point of like not carrying my card with me because I was like, I've got it on my phone, everything is like Apple Pay or something like that. I will be fine. And this must have happened about a few weeks later because, as these things always do. And I was on the tube and I remember I was listening to, and this is going to sound so funny, but the show Wednesday?
Yeah.
There's a beautiful cello piece. Oh, Keep It Black. Yeah, so there's a beautiful cello piece that Wednesday Adams, Jenna Ortega's Wednesday Adams plays in the show, and I had it on my phone, and I was looking for the piece on Spotify, and my phone froze whilst I was on the underground, right? And now everything is on there. I don't have my card, so there's no way for me to get out of the underground. My train ticket is on there. My money is on there. I don't know my partner's number by heart anymore because we live in a time that you don't, right? The only number I know by heart is my mum's number in India. So that's
very, very practical.
very, very practical, right? And of course, like I get off at the tube station and I don't it's in that second because I'm trying to switch my phone off and it's not going off because my phone has frozen. Like there's a particular method, but at the time I didn't know it. It's getting late and I have no way home. And I am essentially a woman. I don't live in London. So I'm essentially a woman trapped in London on the underground by myself and it's getting late. That's scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was winter, so of course it got dark early as well. That's scary. It is scary for anyone. And of course, I start panicking because I'm like, what am I going to do? I can't even get out of the tube station.
Yeah.
Like, what am I going to do? And I think the panic was very visible on my face because it's rush hour. And this man stops, like older gentleman stops. And he's looking at me because he can see the panic and I'm walking very quickly. I'm walking. And I can see him coming from a distance and he comes from a distance and finally he's close enough to me to say, are you okay? Because obviously the panic must have been really clear on my face. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. My phone is frozen. And he's like, okay, that's all right. Can you show me? And he had a very gentle, calm voice. So that made me go, okay, this seems like a safe, he had really kind eyes and a really gentle voice. And I was like, okay, this seems like a safe person. I had to trust my instinct. He was the first person to stop and help. And I really didn't know what to do. He's like, can you show me? Just show me in your hand what's going on. So I showed him and I showed that nothing was happening. He's like, okay, there is a way to switch your phone off and back on again. It can reset. This is not going to be a problem. Let me show you. And he kind of showed me on his own phone because he knew, intrinsically he knew that this is a young woman by herself. And this will probably make her panic if I take her phone off her, right?
Yeah.
So he had the awareness and sense of self to know that. Push this button up, push this button down, and then push the side button for a long time. And I did what he said. And my phone went off, and then I was able to switch it back on again, and it worked. And literally, I burst into tears. That was the moment I chose to burst into tears because I think the panic had kept me going until that point.
Yeah.
And he didn't, because I was crying, he stayed with me. Like we walked to the side because he's like, we'll get out of all of these people's way. And he stayed with me until I stopped crying and I stopped shaking. And he's like, are you okay? I said, I'm fine. Thank you so much. He's like, it's like 5 minutes of my day. It's okay. You know? And he must have been busy. He was wearing a suit. He must have had somewhere to go, whatever. But it was so kind of him to have stopped and helped me, right, in that moment. And there's so many things that in that one moment he changed, like, this fear that I had around, all strangers, all essentially strange men, being wary of people in London, being wary of people like on the underground specifically. You're taught all of these things. You're socialized into those things. In a single second of like 5 minutes of kindness, that man had completely dispelled all those notions. And he was in a hurry to get wherever he was. He had taken those 5 minutes out of his day. I didn't even get to ask him his name. But to the gentleman who helped me, like at King's Cross that day, I think about 2 years ago, I really, really, really appreciate what he did. I don't know what I would have done if he hadn't done that.
Yeah. And that moment, it's 2 years ago. It's technically just a passing 5 minutes of a day, but has meant so much to you that's something that you remember and you hold on to, and that even you say like slightly changed your view of what strangers can be in that setting. That's incredible. When he stayed with you while you were crying and letting that, I guess, like adrenaline out, did he say anything, or did he just stay with you?
He just stood there. And I think, I feel like we have a habit of trying to fill space. Like when sometimes people just need you to stand next to them and not say anything because they're trying to like pull themselves back together.
Yeah.
Whoever he was, he must have either experienced that or seen people go through trauma, or he just knew that this person doesn't need me to say anything to her. She just needs someone to make sure she's all right. And he just stood there and he waited until like I'd stopped and like I was okay. And he asked me if I was all right. And then he left, he went on his day. And I think something intrinsic in him must know that was all I needed at the time. And there's something very powerful about that, to have the, not just the self-awareness, the awareness of other people to know what they need in that moment of time. Funnily enough, that connects to Nam, who's able to also know. And I think that's powerful. Powerful stuff. It's funny because I don't know why I had forgotten this. But someone had shown me how to like unfreeze my phone. I had actually had like an experience like this. And I didn't make the connection back to that. I just panicked instead. But this person stopping and helping me, good. Thank you.
Yeah, that's amazing. I feel like those moments like on the tube when you're out and about, you never know what a small part of your life can be a big part of someone else's.
Yeah.
It's massive.
And I've seen people do, like just yesterday, there was a lady who got on with her cat, and her cat is a Maine Coon. So Maine Coons are massive. Like and it was like on like a leash, like with a little like harness, and you never really see cats like that. And he just this I'll show you photos afterwards, but he was so like just he was his mum's full torso size, and she was just holding him, and he was so well behaved. And I think everyone on the tube was smiling because it made everyone's day. Like he was just like looking at everyone. It's adorable, but small things.
Yeah.
It really can make your day.
Yeah, 100%. I am the sort of person, I love cats. I also love dogs. And I will, if there's a dog getting on the train door or the tube door, I will walk down to that door so I can get on the same couch as the dog, just to be near it.
Yeah.
It just makes me smile.
Do you have a dog?
I don't have a dog, I have a cat.
Yeah, me too. I've got 2 cats, but I love dogs. I do love the way they come up to you. I live in, obviously outside of London, this lovely place called Basingstoke, and people's dogs just are so cute. They'll just come running to you across the park. I've had a Great Dane. I've been lying on the grass, and I've had a Great Dane sit on me and somehow not crush my ribs. It was an amazing experience. And the owner came running up, and she was wearing like a black and white polka dot dress, and the Great Dane was black and white. And I'm like, wow, did you choose to match your... You are amazing. You have made my day. So and the way she just like gets the Great Dane off me, and she's like, I'm so sorry, he still thinks he's a puppy. And I'm like, oh my God.
My cat was like that. So she's a Siberian, so not as big as a Maine Coon, but still quite big. And when she was, in that kind of like, I guess, teenage kitten phase, she didn't realise that she had got quite large, and she would try to get through small gaps, or she would think she could sit on something that would just like start teetering and falling over. Yeah, I love animals when they're like, oh yeah, so I fit here, right? Yeah. I fit here. If I don't fit here, I will make myself fit here. It's like, you can't. Yeah, those little things that like, bring joy to a day.
Yeah, really, really bring joy to a day.
Yeah.
My partner was very kind. She got me a sweet treat from, where was it, from Greg's. She got my daughter one, but she knew what I liked, so she bought me one as well. That was kind. That's the last thing I can remember.
What's your go-to? What did she get you?
It was a custard cream donut.
Nice.
Good choice.
Well, I was camping over the weekend, and it was really hard to get the pegs in, so we ended up asking someone else if they had like a mallet, and they did. So we ended up borrowing that and using that to get the pegs in, because otherwise I'm pretty sure the tent would have flown away in the wind.
Was it a windy weekend?
Yeah, it wasn't so great. But yeah, no, that was...
So someone saved you from losing a tent overnight?
Yeah, pretty much.
Thank you both so much. Really appreciate it. And do you have another kind thing that you would like to share?
Yeah. So this one is more, I think, like the stories which I've shared, like there's one which is of a friend, so it's the family you choose. One is of a stranger. And I think there's something really powerful about having someone in your family be very, very kind to you and see you as a person, especially. So I was a very lonely child. There's a lot going on in the background over there, but I was a very lonely child. And I think the place that I found safety was my books. I loved reading.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising I grew up to be a writer. And books gave me a very, very big escape. But everyone needs someone to be able to talk to. Because we are not, we're not islands. And as much as like we're taught in this world that we are meant to be individualistic, community is what drives us, and community is what gives us hope. And the first community you have really is your family, right? That's the community. And then you have the extended community, or your parents' friends, or like your extended family. My grandmother was my community. Mm-hmm. She was my community because she must have sensed that there is a loneliness in me. And her home was in Jammu. And at the time, you didn't have internet or anything. It would take about 8 hours for us to drive up there. But she had this beautiful home, which is like a farmhouse, essentially. She had massive gardens and she grew a lot of flowers. And like there was like what we call a jhula, or swing outside her house in the garden. And, she makes, like, I think there's something amazing, and I hope everyone gets to experience this on some level, a mother or grandmother who cooks really well. Right? She's an excellent like baker and cook. So the lemonade in our house was amazing. Like there was always like strawberries and cream in the summer, and garden like grown strawberries basically from her own garden. And like she'd make the cream herself, and like chocolate cake. No one makes chocolate cake like my nanny basically. And my grandmother's house very much became, because the Encyclopedia Britannica was basically inside the room I used to sleep in.
Yeah.
So I grew up surrounded by these amazing books, being looked after by this wonderful woman who saw me as a person and would talk to me about everything.
Yeah.
She would talk to me about kindness, and she would talk to me about what spirituality meant to me, and she's a religious person, but, she wouldn't put what she believed on me. She would treat me as my own whole person who could also teach her things. And I think there's something very powerful about having an elder who sees you that way, who doesn't just see you as a child or a grandchild or my daughter's child, but as a human being and as a person, right? Who will go out and do their own things and have their own dreams. So I was always given like a lot of space to write, and she really encouraged me for doing that. I was always told to sing. I was always told to, like, if I wanted to act. Like I'm a lover of the arts. I do all of it. And the reason I do all of it is because she built me the safe haven to do all of those things. And she said to me repeatedly, I remember, because I used to feel quite self-conscious. I'm like, I'm doing this really badly. And she'd be like, can I tell you a secret? It doesn't matter if you do it badly. It matters if you do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's so powerful.
Yeah.
As a young artist, to hear the words, it doesn't matter if you do it badly, as long as you love what you do and as long as you do it.
Yeah. That is wonderful advice. Can you describe her to me? What did she look like? What did her presence feel like?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a cliche thing to say when you say that someone feels like home. But my grandmother very much feels like my home. Yeah, she's my only surviving grandparent now. And my partner knows this. My family knows this. My friends know this. She is the great love of my life. She is my guiding light. She is a beacon to me. And yeah, I miss her a lot because she lives there and I live here. So whenever I go home, I make sure I go and visit her and I hug her and I love her. Because she's probably, I would say, one of the most, or actually the most important person in my life, because so much of who I am today is because of her and because of my grandfather and who they are as people. I just lost my grandfather. He died on his 96th birthday a week ago. And it has been very difficult because it feels like the world is a little bit smaller since he's gone, because he was such a large presence in my life. Yeah. And it's the funny thing about grief is no one tells you that the world will keep spinning. Things will keep happening and the world doesn't stop when you grieve. And it's funny because as human beings, we think that is what, when we go through a great loss, everything starts feeling strange because the world hasn't changed, you have.
Yeah.
You know? But you expect the world to change because you've changed. All that's changed is your perspective on the world.
And your perspective definitely does change. I wondered if you wanted to share your grandfather's name so that we can speak his memory. Yeah. My grandfather's name was Lieutenant General Prem Singh Vadera. And
And I think my father put it beautifully in his eulogy that he was a soldier from the time of his mother's womb, all the way till when he died. He had dementia in his final years. And so he was in the Indian Army. And one of the things that he taught me since I was very young was to know, to hold on to your heart and to know, your own strength and your inner strength of who you are as a person. It's quite interesting, that we live in a time as we do, because we are renegotiating constantly what it means to be human. And my grandfather and I used to disagree a lot. I'm a pacifist, obviously. I don't necessarily agree with the concept of, armed warfare. I don't agree with I'm a pacifist. But I'm also very aware that the world as we know it has come to the way that it has because of a lot of war, and that's our history. And, people like my grandfather joined the armed forces because at the time he always did want to join the army, but there were only like 3 careers available, I think, to people back in those days, especially in, India. We're talking post-partition India, post-freedom India. But there were so many things that I think people didn't realize about the people who joined those, like the men who joined those, the armed forces. My grandfather was an amazing storyteller. He had a very big heart. He's a fantastic artist. He used to be very good at like sketching things and stuff. And he was a very disciplined man. He benefited from discipline and from what the army provided that way, like structure, discipline. He was very old school that way. But he gave me those things. He gave me discipline in my life and he gave me structure. And he used to encourage me to speak my mind. And he's like, if you disagree with the fact that I'm in the army, that's fine. Speak your mind about it. And he didn't take it as a personal insult.
Yeah.
And he didn't take it as anathema. And he just used to let me talk.
Yeah, to allow someone to disagree with something you do, but to be happy to hold that space, to allow them to express that.
Yeah.
That's so nurturing.
It is. It is. And like another thing, like I think we're living in a time where we have to like acknowledge the fact that like we all have family members who we may not necessarily agree with. Right? And we may stand on like opposite sides of the political spectrum from those people. Or, we may morally disagree with those people. But what matters is that you are able to speak your mind to those people. You have to be able to do that in a family. And my grandfather, there were a lot of things. He was Kashmiri, and partition had left very deep scars on his family. Very deep scars on his family. So him joining the armed forces was actually something that he did because he felt a sense of protection towards, and it was a very difficult time for anyone who lived in that area, in Kashmir especially, because Kashmir was a particularly special case. He became the man he was, and he was an incredibly courageous man. He was an incredibly strong man. I always say, I've said this a lot over the last 10 days, he was the best of men. He was. And he was a very nurturing man. And I think when you see masculine figures who are supposed to be like the emblem of machismo, and he very much was, who are also very soft and who are also very nurturing and who are also very tender. That's who he was.
He sounds amazing.
Yeah, he was. He was an amazing man. It's hard to say was as well, because I still feel like in India, in my culture, we believe that they haven't left. The people who they've just, your ancestors are just in the next room.
Yeah.
They're just next door having a good chat, probably having a drink, probably making fun of you, like knowing them. But yeah, he was the last of his friends to go. So I'd like to imagine that they were all waiting there going,
Come join.
Come on.
We're having a party.
Jeez. Took you long enough. Good God, man.
And your grandmother, who was your, who felt like home, and you said you were, you felt like you were quite a lonely child, and then you were in this room with all these, encyclopedias. How did that change how you were able to express yourself as a person, going from someone who maybe in that lonely state was perhaps a bit inside themselves?
I think what's really hard about being a lonely child is that if there is bullying or any kind of abuse or anything going on in the background of your life, you're forced to grow up a lot faster than your peer group is, right? So you don't relate to your own peer group. And you kind of struggle to relate to older children as well, or younger children, because children don't have the language to talk about things like bullying and abuse when they're young. They just don't. It's just not something which we teach children. We're doing better with it now, but when I was young, certainly not, right? My grandmother was able to see that without me having to verbalize it, right? Because she just had the intuition that something is happening with this child, which she doesn't feel comfortable speaking about. So all I can do is build her this safe haven by giving her the thing that she loves most, which is she likes learning. She likes books. So I'll give her the space to do those things. I'll encourage her to do the things she loves. And she did that. That's what she did for me. And I think that's the kindest thing you can do for a lonely child, because they literally don't have anyone in their peer group who they can talk to, unless there is another child who's going through the same painful things. And then also, how do you make those children talk to each other? Because neither of them are going to want to talk about those things. So yeah, I'm very grateful that I had two very amazing elders in my life who made me the way that I am.
Yeah. Have you spoken to them about those moments when you were young and forming who you were? Have you spoken to them about what that has meant to you?
My first story that was ever published, I was 12 years old, was about my grandfather. And how much I respected and admired him and thought the world of him, really. And it was a story about him during partition and the incredible act of courage that he did. He gave up his seat, or his family was leaving, and there were there was a lot of pain. There were a lot of people there was a lot of violence, which was repeatedly visiting homes, families, etc. And my grandfather, he was one of 4 siblings, and there were his parents, and they were trying to leave everything. They had to obviously leave everything behind in Kashmir and go. And my grandfather did this incredible, incredible thing. There was a father and his daughter who came asking, because there were not enough vehicles to take everyone. And they came asking. And there was only one seat free on my grandfather's parents' Jeep. And my grandfather looked at this young girl and he looked at the father. He's 17. And he said, you know what? Take my seat. And the whole family got really upset. They were like, we're not going to leave you behind here. This is really dangerous. And he gave up his seat. And he insisted. His value system was so strong. He insisted. He was like, no. She's a very young girl. She must have been about 13, 14. You have to take her, because what was happening at the time during partition was young, beautiful girls, and she was a very beautiful girl, were being kidnapped, and taken or assaulted. I think it was 1 million women at the time or something, or hundreds of thousands. It was a very ridiculously high number. All of this was happening, and my grandfather was like, I can't have that on my conscience. He was 17 years old. And he insisted they left without him with this girl and her father. He insisted. And I don't know how my great-grandfather managed to find him again, but he found him 3 months later. He went on a bus looking from place to place, right? And on one of the final stops, like he was really starting to get quite tired, and he was almost giving up hope. Like he was like, maybe he's died. Like we died because there were like trains full of bodies arriving at like stations and stuff at the time. It was so traumatic. And people never found their loved ones, right? Like that's how things were. And my grandfather, my great-grandfather was about to give up. And then the bus stopped in like one of the bus points at Kashmir, like bus stations. And this group of extremely grubby boys, teenage boys gets on. And they all have lathis, which are like very big sticks. And my great-grandfather's like, who are these boys? And it turns out there's like a group of boys who had basically become self-appointed security for like whatever families were left behind, like little communities of families that were left behind. They were like self-appointed security to protect them. And my grandfather was one of those boys who had managed to board that bus. It is an incredible story. So I took that story and I put it in, like, I wrote about it because it's such a powerful story.
Yeah.
And then the Hindustan Times, one of the supplements picked it up. So I am a writer today because I was published when I was 12 years old writing this story about my grandfather. My entire genesis story is these two people from my family. My entire genesis story, who I am as a poet and writer today, is directly down to who they are.
Yeah.
And this is why I always say to parents and grandparents that if you see talent in a kid, foster it, nurture it, encourage it.
Yeah. I also wondered if you could tell me what the kindest thing you've ever done for yourself is.
You know, it's quite funny because I was having a conversation with a friend about this a week ago, 2 weeks ago. And I said the nicest thing I've ever done for myself is learn the magic of saying, I cannot. I cannot instead of I can. I'm very much the kind of person who will work until I overextend myself. And then I'll feel horrible, or my immune system will shut down and I'll fall sick. Those were the ways I used to stop. And the best gift I've ever given to myself is to just turn around and say, I cannot. I cannot today. I am going to take a day, stay at home, sit in my garden, and drink an iced coffee today instead of like going and like doing XYZ work.
Yeah.
And maybe like doing a meeting or doing this or doing that. No, today is a day I'm going to sit in my garden, cross-legged on the grass and drink some iced coffee. That is what I need to do today. So I cannot. And just saying the words, I cannot to myself or even no.
Yeah.
That's the kindest thing I've done for myself.
That is a very good kind thing. To give yourself space to listen to what your body needs before it has to scream it, which I have also done.
Yeah.
There's a poem that you wrote and shared recently, and you can 100% say no to this, but I thought it resonated with a lot of the themes, and
Yes.
I wondered if you would read it.
Of course. Oh, yeah. In a world besieged by heartache and agony, we all have the choice to be storms or lighthouses to each other. May we choose to be beacons rather than despair. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been such a wonderful chat. I really appreciate you coming and sharing your stories. Such stories of brilliant kindness.
Thank you. Thank you. I think great kindness requires great courage. And I think all of us could do with both right now.
Yes.
Thank you for having me, Holly.
Hey, hold on. I'll stay here till it goes.
Thank you so much for listening. You being here and your support means so much to me. I could bask in the presence of Nikita Gill all day long. She's such a beautiful storyteller, and I'm honoured that she shared stories of the people she's grieving. This episode is dedicated to anyone who has held us in our grief. Maybe share the episode with one of those people in your life or someone else who might enjoy it. I would also love to hear a story from you about a time someone was kind to you. So send that in at kindpodcast.com or email me, holly@kindpodcast.com, and I will feature some of the stories on the show. If you like the show, hit subscribe, hit follow, give us a rating. It helps me a lot. It was great to spend time with you. Speak soon.
Dream on and let your heart unfold.